Hey, if you're one of the millions of people who's been struggling to find a diet and a way to lose weight that actually works, I think you're going to enjoy this video because I might have the solution for you. My name is Matt from Diet Dashboard, and the first thing we're going to do, if you're new here, is we're going to put our walking shoes on because we're about to take the simultaneous step, which means if you're looking for a little bit of motivation and a prompt, which is a concept in a previous video I encourage you to go back and check out. It's called BMAP, behavior equals motivation plus the ability plus the prompt. So you need your ability. Pause the video if you haven't got your shoes and your walking attire on. Come back because we're about to do the simultaneous step. In 3, 2, 1. Let's do it. So again, if you're new here, my name is Matt from Diet Dashboard. And typically when we do our walk and talks, I like to do what's called the simultaneous step. Because as we know, sometimes it is difficult to get yourself motivated and moving out in the day. And actually, one thing I wanted to talk about today has to do with my Garmin watch here, which I'm going to see if I can start up really quickly. All right, I'm going to track my walk today. So if you're just joining for the first time, I am on the restart of my health journey. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today was data, or data if you wish. So my lovely wife bought me this Garmin watch. It's probably been 5 or 6 years now. And I was never a big tracker, really, of anything. And this wound up being a huge blessing in my life because what the Garmin did for me is it automatically started tracking things. And after, a few weeks of this, I started to realize, wow, my sleep is not that great. And it even tracks things like stress, all kinds of stuff, heart rate. You can see what your heart rate is when you're at rest, when you're sleeping. And over, weeks and months of this, I started to collect all this data and kind of had an epiphany of like, wow, when you have this data, it kind of starts to tell you a story. And again, not being a super data-driven person as far as with my health, when I was able to start connecting the dots, things started to make a lot more sense to me. So I wanted to encourage you today, if you don't have something like a Garmin or an Apple Watch, doesn't have to be anything super expensive, but start looking into getting something where you can start getting a story of what your body is doing. Because regardless of where you are in your health journey, that extra data is going to tell a story, and it's going to start giving you clues as to why you feel the way you feel, or give you clues on what you need to be doing to feel better. So for myself, for example, when I was completely dialed in and in the best shape of my life, I think, my resting heart rate when I would be sleeping was around 49 or 50 beats per minute. And in healthy, athletic people, that is a pretty good place to be. However, when I fell off the wagon, my sleeping heart rate was more in the almost 60 beats per minute territory. So if you think about that, that means my heart is actually working harder because it's beating more when I'm sleeping. So for me, that's not really a good thing. It means my quality of sleep is not as good, which then makes my days worse. And this all adds up, especially with sleep, is just so important. And luckily, we've got information now that is telling us that sleep is probably the most important factor when it comes to our health. So keep that in mind for today. Start thinking about, if you don't have a way to get some data on yourself, how can you do that? Another one that I do is I have a digital scale that just Bluetooths with an app to my phone. So instead of having to, go step on a scale and look and read it with my eyes half closed in the morning, I just step on the scale, flip my app on, boom, it tracks it for me. It keeps a record of that stuff for me, and it allows me again to see this story. So, when I did start to kind of fall off from my fitness and diet stuff, it's not just in your head. You're actually seeing the data. I can see the weight chart going up ever so slowly, or in some cases not so slowly. But even just being able to look back and seeing the trends. I'll give you another good example. When I'm looking at my weight, for example, where I peaked this last go round at 201 pounds was during the week of Christmas. So of course that makes sense. Christmas, break, eating, indulging. So you kind of get an idea of where maybe these triggers for you are diet wise, where these periods and these, seasons, as I like to say, of, yeah, I can see that's kind of where I was in my off season. So all these data points start to combine to add up to tell this story to you. And I guess the closing part of this idea is that if you have this story, you're going to have chapters in a story, right? And it's going to be a lot easier for you to remember, oh wait, chapter so-and-so, I was doing good. Let me go back and see what I was doing there. So this also connects into things like your diet tracking, which of course, I have a diet tracking app, Diet Dashboard, on the iOS store, and would encourage you to try it. But you don't have to try our app. It could be any app. But again, if you start tracking, you're going to see this story, and you're going to have this history, and you're going to have, your ups and downs, just like any good story does. But you'll be able to easily reference back to, hey, I remember during that period, I was doing really good. So what is it that I was doing at that period that I'm not doing now? And if you have the data to be able to go back and see that stuff, it's going to be a lot easier for you to get back into that mode. Now, for me, I have this stuff kind of ingrained in me at this point. So when I fall off, it's a very conscious thing where I'm like, yeah, this is not what I should be eating, or I should really be working out or getting a walk in. But again, life goes through seasons. That was a previous season, and now I'm in a new one. And hopefully you're coming along with me in your own journey. So the reason I mentioned the diet tracking apps, which again, I would encourage you to try Diet Dashboard if you're on the iPhone, because we have designed it, my partner Rory and I, to be absolutely the simplest diet tracking app out there. I will go into detail probably this week in a video or two about how to actually use it. It's super simple. And again, you're just trying to build this story up of what you're doing. Again, if you're in the beginning of your journey, would encourage you not to really worry so much about, changing everything about the way you eat. As a matter of fact, if you're doing this for the first time, I would recommend you don't really change what you eat at all at the current stage we're at. But what I would recommend is that you start just simply tracking and putting it in and recording some data, so that you can start building this story to where when it is time to start changing some of your diet choices, it's not going to just be this thing of like, oh, well, I know I shouldn't eat this, so let me just eat, rice and vegetables. That's not going to be very sustainable for you. So at this stage, if you start tracking, I would encourage just simply track what you're eating, but start to notice how many calories are in the things that you're eating. Because unfortunately, food has now been engineered to be as calorie dense as possible, while making you not only not feel full, it actually makes you feel hungrier. So if you're wondering why the potato chip bag is an invitation to eat 1,000 potato chips and not just a couple. It's because there are literally scientists at these companies in a lab figuring out a way to make you feel hungrier and just eating, 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 because the more you eat, the more you're going to spend, right? So think about that. We all know that, not to call any particular brands out, but we all know that Cheetos and Doritos and that stuff doesn't fill you up. They taste amazing, but again, they are engineered to taste amazing and not fill you up. If you go back to a previous video, I had recommended to try and start introducing some more protein, whole food type proteins into your diet, because those are the things that are going to actually fill you up and make you feel full. One of the best examples I heard somebody say was, give somebody 10 pounds of potato chips and they could probably eat almost all of them. Give somebody 10 pounds of chicken breast, they might make it through half a pound. And if you think about it, think about when you've eaten stuff like chicken or a steak or something, whole food protein like that, where you didn't have to basically end the meal because you were full. So again, think about all these things that have been engineered to trick our brains, especially trick our stomachs. If you're not familiar with something called ghrelin, I will discuss that in a future video, but that is basically our hunger response. So when you feel hungry, oftentimes it is that response that's been triggered. And they even have engineered ways to trick that as well. So you have to be careful. But again, if you're on the beginning of this journey, I would recommend you don't change too much about your actual diet. I would recommend that you start trying to track and understand how many calories that you're actually taking in, because it's probably a lot more than you think, especially if you're overweight. The fact is you are taking in more calories than you are expending. So with that being said, what's the next actionable step for you for today? Well, start trying to track some food. And then I want you to be conscious of, okay, if I ate 6 donuts today for breakfast, or 6 waffles, or whatever, maybe tomorrow, instead of 6, let's just do 4. Maybe instead of the McDonald's, sausage, egg, cheese, whatever, biscuit, plus the hash browns, let's maybe not do the hash browns. Or the final thing for today, calories in drinks. The McDonald's just cued me on that one. How about instead of the sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, the hash browns, and the iced coffee mocha sippy with cream and whipped cream and sprinkles on top? Those drinks can have 500 to 1,000 calories just in the drinks alone. So if I had a tip I wanted to give you for today, that was one of the biggest insights I ever had. Don't drink your calories, okay? Think of your calories every day as you have a bank account. Food, obviously we need it. But calories, if you only have, let's say, 16 to 1,800 calories in your bank account for the day, and you drink one of these drinks that has 500 calories, you just wiped out almost a third of your daily account in that one drink. And I guarantee you that drink is not going to fill you up. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to spike your blood sugar and cause you even more problems. So the biggest tip I will give you for today, and I think this is one that probably trips up the most people that are new to this type of stuff, drinking your calories. Don't drink your calories. Water, diet drinks are fine if they're 0 calorie. We'll get more into a discussion about things like artificial sweeteners and seed oils. I know is a hot topic right now, but I can assure you at the end of the day, the biggest factor is whether or not you're taking in more calories than you're expending, because all this extra weight, you have to think about it like this. If your body was designed to be in an optimal range of, let's say, 180 pounds, but you weigh 240 pounds, well, your body has to almost produce twice as much effort because it's almost trying to keep a whole other person alive. So think about that when, you know, you feel sluggish or you don't feel great, or especially people out there, if you're having health problems. Number one cause of health problems is going to be the fact that your body is trying to compensate for more than one person. You are trying to actively keep alive and keep going, you know, more like a person and a half. Some people almost two persons. So again, the big actionable tip I would say for today is start looking at the drinks that you're drinking. And if you're not just purely drinking water and some 0-calorie drinks, that would be the first place I would look to start figuring out, what can I replace this stuff with? And I suppose the last thing I'll leave here is, don't expect to go out and replace your McDonald's, you know, sugar-filled drink with maybe the first thing you try that is a 0-calorie option. You may not necessarily enjoy that, and that's okay. Just like we're all going to have false starts trying to do anything, we're going to make mistakes. Don't get down on yourself if you try to replace something, and this is going to apply to foods as well, because let me tell you, I'm in South Louisiana. If there is one thing we love down here, it is our food. Unfortunately, it's some of the worst food health-wise you can eat. Fried everything, flour on everything, alcohol, a big part of the culture down here. And we'll touch more on all that stuff at another time, but the point is, once you start cutting just the drink calories, if you haven't done that already, you will already see a difference very quickly just from that. But again, don't get down if you try to replace your favorite drink that's calorie filled with something else and it's just not quite as tasty. First of all, remember, scientists in a lab have literally tested thousands of concoctions to figure out the tastiest and the one that's going to make you want more. So just understand that there is going to be a bit of a change there, but that's okay. Keep working, keep finding stuff that's going to be better options for you, and I think you're going to be in a much better spot. So hopefully you enjoyed this walk and talk with me. This is Matt from Diet Dashboard. Be sure to click like and subscribe. Hang in there. I'll see you in the next one.